Hello friends. About 70% of the friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and contributes to the growth of the channel. Thank you all. From which country or city do you follow the channel? The whisper. The last thing he heard was a whisper. You weren't supposed to see this. It slithered from the dark, low and jagged. A voice scraped raw by years underground. I'm Tom Rains, 42, a truck driver who's logged more miles than memories. That night, I was hauling scrap metal through Ohio's backroads, a stretch where trees lean too close and the mist feels like it's waiting to pounce. My rig's headlights clawed at the haze, barely cutting through. I cracked my third beer. Judge me if you want. It's how I unwind after 12 hours staring at nothing. The radio buzzed static, a dull hum keeping me company. Then I saw him, a guy by the roadside, thumb up, coat flapping ragged in the wind. No cars, no houses for miles. Just him, pale as a ghost under the sodium glow of my lights. I pulled over, tires crunching gravel. He climbed in slow, deliberate, like he'd been expecting me. Thin frame, sunken cheeks, eyes like someone punched holes in his face and forgot to fill them. Where you headed? I asked, keeping it light. He didn't answer, just stared ahead, hands folded in his lap. I shrugged, seen worse hitchhikers. But then he leaned in, close enough I felt the chill off him, and that whisper hit. You weren't supposed to see this. I laughed, sharp and shaky. See what, buddy? I turned, expecting a smirk or some half-baked joke. The seat was empty. Door locked, windows up, no sign he'd been there. My beer slipped, splashing my jeans. I rubbed my eyes, hard, figuring it was the booze or the road messing with me. But then I saw it. A smear on the passenger seat, dark and wet, thicker than oil, glistening like it was fresh. My stomach lurched. I'm not into ghost stories. Hell, I don't even flinch at loud noises. But that whisper stuck, looping in my head like a warning I'd already ignored. I muttered, "Screw this," and hit the gas, the mist tightening around me like it knew something I didn't. I kept driving, telling myself it was nothing. A tired brain screwing with me after too many late nights. That smear, though, it wouldn't budge. I grabbed a rag from the floor, scrubbed at it, and the damn thing spread, streaking across the leather like it was laughing at me. 2 minutes later, it happened. A laugh, short and brittle, from the back of the cab. Not my laugh. Mine's a smoker's rasp. This was sharper, colder. I slammed the brakes, rig shuddering, and whipped around. Just my sleeping bag, a crumpled pack of smokes, and that half-empty bottle of Jack I'd stashed earlier. Get it together, Tom, I growled. But my hands shook like I'd downed a pot of coffee. The mist outside thickened, curling around the windows like it wanted in. I floored it, needing speed, distance, anything to shake the itch crawling up my spine. The dashboard clock blinked, 3 quick flashes, then locked at 12 minutes past midnight. I tapped it hard. Nothing. That's when the smell hit. Damp earth, sour rot, like something dug up after a storm. It wasn't from the road. It was here, inside, clogging my throat. I cracked a window, but it didn't help. The stink clung, heavy and wrong. I pulled into a gas station at mile marker 7, tires spitting gravel. The place was a dump. Flickering neon, a clerk who looked 16 and couldn't care less. You see a guy out there? I asked, voice rougher than I meant. He shrugged, eyes on his phone. I grabbed a coffee, black as tar, and slumped back in the cab, staring at that smear. It was bigger now, or was it? I squinted, pulse thumping. Then the passenger window fogged up, not outside, but in here. A finger traced one word, slow and deliberate. Remember. I dropped the cup, hot coffee soaking my boots, and sat there, breathing hard, wondering what I was supposed to remember, and why it felt like I'd already screwed up. I hit the road again, that word, remember, gnawing at me like a splinter I couldn't pull. Remember what? I'm not some deep thinker. I haul freight, dodge way stations, keep my head down. The CB radio kicked on, static crackling louder than it should, like a storm rolling through the speakers. I twisted the knob to kill it, nothing. Then a voice punched through. Tom. Clear, calm, my name like a gunshot. Not a dispatcher, not some trucker messing around. Something else. I snatched the mic, fingers sweaty. Who's this? Quit screwing with me. The static roared back, a wall of noise. Then, my throat locked up. I tossed the mic. It clattered against the dash, but the voices kept coming, layered, whispering, taunting. You saw it. You ran. You left us. I don't have an us. Just me, this rig, and a life I don't dwell on. I cranked the volume down, but it blasted louder, filling the cab with echoes. I swear I heard myself in there, pleading, please stop, like some terrified kid lost in the dark. The mist outside shifted, gray to red, a sickly glow like blood seeping through gauze. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Still there, pulsing along the road. My foot jammed the gas, heart slamming against my ribs, until the static cut out and everything went silent. Too silent. The air felt heavy, pressing down, and I risked a glance at the passenger seat. The smear was gone. I let out a shaky breath, almost laughing at myself, until the rear view caught my eye. There it was on the back wall, a handprint, wet and black, fingers splayed like it had reached for me. I stared, breath fogging the glass, and heard it again. Tom! Not from the radio. From behind me. I didn't turn, couldn't. But the cab got cold, sharp, like stepping into a freezer, and I knew it wasn't done with me yet. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white, telling myself to keep driving. That handprint in the mirror throbbed, slick and alive, like it was waiting for me to slip. I've never been religious, prayers are for folks with time to kill. But right then, I damn near muttered one. Every glance at the rear view showed worse. The print stretched, fingers curling, then a face flickered, blurry, no eyes, just a grin splitting the dark. I barked, "What do you want?" No answer, just that grin growing, teeth jagged like shattered glass. The haze pressed in, swallowing the highway lines, and my headlights flickered, dim, bright, dim, like the rig was choking. I fumbled with the radio. Dead air hissed back. The cold hit next, not just a chill, but a deep freeze that turned my breath to clouds. I cranked the heat, swearing when it stayed dead. Then tap, 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 soft, steady on the passenger window. My gut screamed not to look, but my eyes slid over anyway. There he was, the guy, my Poputnik, face mashed against the glass. Black pit eyes locked on me, unblinking. I swerved, tires shrieking, rig fishtailing across the lane. He was gone when I checked again, but the tapping kept going, roof, floor, back wall, a rhythm drilling into my skull. Leave me the hell alone, I snapped, slamming the dash. Silence hit, sweet and heavy, for maybe 10 seconds. I sucked in air, shaky, thinking it was over. Then the mirror fogged, and words scratched out, slow and uneven. You can't. My laugh came out more like a sob, and I floored it, praying the road would end before I did. Mile marker 13 slid into view, a rusted sign half buried in the mist. I'd passed it 100 times, nothing but a dented relic on a stretch of nowhere. Tonight it felt alive, pulling me in. The air thickened, sour with rot, like a grave left open too long. I slowed, not sure why, and spotted a ditch off the shoulder, deep, jagged, like something had ripped it from the earth. My brain said drive on. My gut said look. I killed the engine, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped out, boots sinking into wet gravel. The beam shook in my hand as I aimed it down. Mud, weeds, nothing until it caught a glint. Metal, a car bumper, old, crumpled, rust bleeding into the dirt. My chest tightened, a memory clawing up. 6 years back, rain like needles, a car in my lane. I swerved, they didn't. Metal screamed, and I kept driving, telling myself it wasn't my fault. I shook it off, but the tapping started again, sharp from the cab. I spun, light bouncing, passenger door wide open. I hadn't touched it. Inside, the smear was back, dripping down the seat like tar, pooling on the floor. A growl rolled up from the ditch, low and wet. "You left me." I stumbled, flashlight tumbling into the muck, beam cutting wild shadows. Something moved down there, long, thin, not right. I bolted for the cab, slamming the door, locking it with trembling hands. The engine roared to life. I'd left the keys in my pocket, but it didn't care. Headlights flared red. I gripped the wheel, muttering, "I didn't mean it." But the ditch growled back, louder, and I knew whatever was down there wasn't done digging up my past. I peeled out, gravel spitting, lungs burning like I'd run a mile. The door locked itself behind me, a heavy click that felt final. The memory hit hard. That night, 6 years ago, rain hammering the windshield, a car swerving into my lane. I jerked the wheel, heard the crunch, saw headlights spin into the dark. I didn't stop, kept driving, radio blaring, telling myself they'd be fine. Cops said later no one was found. I buried it deep, drowned it in beer and miles. Now it was back, and it wasn't letting go. The growl followed, vibrating up through the floor, a sound that wasn't just sound. It was weight pressing on my chest. "You left me," it said again, clearer, a man's voice choking on something thick. "I didn't mean to," I shouted, voice cracking. The cab rattled, lights strobing red, and there he was, passenger seat, soaked, hair plastered to a skull split open like a melon. "You saw?" he rasped, lips twitching, eyes fixed on me. I screamed, swerving hard, rig lurching. He vanished, but the wheel locked, forcing me straight down a road that stretched too long, too empty. The growl turned to a laugh, wet and cruel, and the smear oozed onto my hand, cold as death. I wiped it on my jeans, gagging, but it stuck, crawling up my arm. The headlights caught mile marker 13 again. I'd gone 15 miles at least. "This isn't real," I muttered, over and over. But the cab smelled like blood now, coppery and sharp, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the road was driving me, not the other way around. I scrubbed at the smear, retching, but it clung like a second skin. The laugh faded, replaced by a hum, soft, human, almost a lullaby. The CB crackled to life. Thomas Raines, age 42, driver's license 079. My life laid out like a damn obituary. Then James Carter, age 29, deceased. My breath stopped. James Carter. That name, it was him, the guy from the crash. I never knew it back then, never stuck around to find out. Cops said no body, no proof. I convinced myself it was nothing. The hum sharpened, words cutting through. "You saw me bleed." My hands shook, rig drifting as I fought to focus. "I didn't mean it," I whispered, barely audible. The passenger seat groaned. He was back, neck twisted, water dripping from his coat onto the floor. "Liar," he said, voice echoing in my head, not my ears. I slammed the brakes, but the rig rolled on, slow and stubborn, like it had a mind of its own. A photo slid out from under the seat. Old, bent, me with a buddy, beers raised, grinning like fools. Behind us, a wrecked car, my rig in the distance. I didn't remember that picture. Not like this. James leaned closer, breath rancid. "You took everything." I stared at the photo, at the car, his car, and felt the road tilt under me, like it was pulling me back to that night, ready to make me pay. The road warped, trees bending inward, branches clawing at the sky like desperate hands. Mile marker 13 flashed by again. Third time, maybe fourth, I'd lost count. I stomped the gas, but the needle stuck at 20, engine whining. James sat there, silent, neck clicking with every bump, watching me unravel. "Where are we going?" I croaked, throat dry. He pointed ahead, slow, deliberate. The mist split, and a bridge rose up, old wooden planks rotting through. I'd never seen it before, not in 20 years on this route. I pumped the brakes, nothing. The rig rolled onto the bridge, wood creaking, splintering under the weight. Below, black water churned, alive, slapping the supports. James whispered, "You can't leave." The clock spun backward, ticking down 6 years right to that night. The rear view showed it. My rig, his car, the ditch, me peeling out. "I'm sorry," I barked, voice raw. He grinned, teeth sharp, broken. Too late. The bridge buckled, front wheels dangling, and something splashed below. Big, heavy, not just water. I froze, waiting for the drop, knowing I'd earned it. The rig lurched back, wheels catching solid ground, inches from the edge. I gasped, sweat burning my eyes, hands locked on the wheel. James was gone, but the air hummed, thick with him, with something worse. I stumbled out, legs weak, and peered over the side. Faces stared up, dozens, pale, eyeless, bobbing in the black water. Not just James. Strangers, folks I'd passed on roadsides, ignored, forgotten. Their mouths moved, silent, accusing. A voice, not his, rolled from the haze. "You carry us all." The bridge groaned, tilting again. I scrambled to the cab, but the keys were gone, ignition cold. The smear coated the wheel now, pulsing like a heartbeat, warm under my fingers. I grabbed the photo. More wrecks faded into it, cars I didn't remember, crashes I'd shrugged off. How many? The mist thickened, and a shape drifted out. Tall, limbs bent wrong, face a smear of shadow. "You see now," it said, splitting into a chorus of voices. The water screamed, and it reached for me, slow, inevitable. I dove into the cab, slamming the door, glass rattling. The thing pressed close, not touching, just there, heavy in my bones. "What are you?" I choked out. No answer. The faces below chanted my name, twisted and wrong. The photo burned in my hand, curling up, and James whispered, "You don't get to forget." The rig rolled back, bridge gone, just road again, endless, looping. The thing faded, but I felt it, sinking into me. I drove, mile marker 13 ticking by, the smear spreading, cab, hands, eyes. Then it stopped. Dawn broke, soft, normal. I pulled over, laughing, crying maybe. The seat was clean, no photo, no voices. I let out a long, slow breath until I heard it. My breath echoed from behind. I turned. Nothing. The rear view grinned back. My face, eyeless, broken. "You're ours now," it whispered, and the road stretched on, waiting. Night whispers. My kid talks to someone invisible every damn night. I'd hear her through the paper-thin walls of our old trailer. Soft giggles. Whispers like she's trading secrets with the dark. Last night, though, she turned to me, eyes wide as headlights, and said, "Mama, he's watching you now." Except I'm not a mama. I'm Travis, a 38-year-old trucker with no wife, no kids. Not anymore. My daughter, Lily, died 7 years ago. Car wreck. My fault. I don't talk about it. Don't let it creep into my head. I bury it under long hauls and black coffee, letting the road grind the guilt to dust. But last night, her voice cut through, clear as a bell, right in my ear, inside the cab of my rig. "He's watching you." I've been hauling freight across these lonely highways for 15 years. Night after night, just me and the engine's growl. It's my refuge. Headlights slicing through fog, radio crackling with static, the world shrinking to a ribbon of asphalt. That whisper, though, hit me hard. I checked the bunk behind me, half expecting her small shadow curled up like she used to be, back when I'd take her on short runs before it all fell apart. Nothing there. Just my thermos tipped over, a crumpled pack of smokes underfoot. I forced a laugh. Too much caffeine, not enough sleep, right? But my hands trembled on the wheel. The road stretched out, black and endless, and the air felt thick, like something had slipped in beside me, lurking just beyond my sight. I flicked on the dome light, checked the mirrors, empty, all of them. Still, my skin prickled. I pulled over at a rest stop, lit a cigarette, watched the smoke twist into the gloom. The night was silent, too silent, no crickets, No breeze stirring the trees. Just my breathing, rough and uneven. I told myself it was nothing, a tired mind playing tricks. Lily's been gone too long. She doesn't talk to me anymore. But as I climbed back into the cab, I heard it again. Faint, like a sigh through a cracked window. "Daddy!" My heart stuttered. I slammed the door, gunned the engine, and tore out, tires kicking up gravel. Whatever it was, I wasn't waiting around to find out. 2 nights later, I'm rolling through Nebraska, cornfields rustling on both sides, when I spot her. A kid, 8 or 9 maybe, standing on the shoulder, thumb out like she's hitching. It's 3 in the morning, no cars for miles, and she's just there, barefoot, white dress too pristine for a dusty road, hair damp and clinging to her face. I ease off the gas because what kind of bastard leaves a kid out here? She climbs in without a word, settles into the passenger seat like it's hers. "Where you headed?" I ask, voice gruff from too many cigarettes. She points ahead, silent. Her eyes are dark, unnaturally so, like they're drinking the light around them. I'm 2 minutes into this strange ride when she turns and says, "You look tired, Travis." My name. She knows my damn name. I nearly veer off the road, pulse pounding in my ears. "How do you?" I start, but she just gazes forward, humming a tune soft, jagged, like a lullaby twisted wrong. I should have stopped right there, told her to get out and find someone else's rig to haunt. But something held me, a cold knot in my gut saying she's no ordinary runaway. Her dress carries a whiff of river water, sharp and earthy, and her hands, folded too neatly, don't twitch like a kid's should. "What's your name?" I press, tightening my grip on the wheel. She smiles, slow and cutting, like she's savoring a private joke. "You'll see," she says, and then she's gone. Seats empty. No door opened, no sound, just me, sweat drenching my shirt, the road thrumming beneath me. I pull over, hands unsteady, and inspect the seat. A wet patch lingers where she sat, icy to the touch. I wipe it away, muttering about leaks, condensation, anything sane. But my breath comes short, and the cab feels tighter, like the walls are inching closer. I light another cigarette, but the smoke hangs heavy, refusing to drift out the window. Something's off. I feel it deep in my bones, a chill I can't shake. I keep driving because stopping feels like surrender. The engine's roar is the only thing anchoring me. But the cab's changed, air's dense, like it's holding its breath, waiting. I turn up the radio, a preacher droning about sin, but it cuts out every few minutes, drowned by static that whispers too much like voices. I tell myself it's nothing. Exhaustion, guilt. Lily's words still echo in my head. And now this girl? I'm unraveling. I light a cigarette, watch the ember flare, but the smoke coils oddly, lingering instead of escaping into the night. Around for I hear it, a giggle, soft, muted, like it's leaking from the bunk. I freeze, cigarette dangling, ash dusting my jeans. "Lily," I whisper, because I'm a fool who can't let go. No reply, just another giggle, nearer now, right behind my seat. I yank the curtain back, pulse racing. Nothing, just my thermos on its side, coffee pooling like spilled ink. I didn't knock it over, I'd swear to that. My hands tremble as I mop it up with a rag, cursing to drown the silence. Then I see the side mirror, fogged up, like someone exhaled on it. Etched into the mist is one word: closer. I stumble out, boots crunching gravel, and gulp the cold air. The night's too still. No wind, no stars, just a gray smear overhead. I check the mirror again. The word's gone, glass clear, showing my haggard face staring back. I laugh, a brittle bark, and climb back in. But as I settle into the seat, the radio spits static, and a voice, small, hers, says, "Don't look." My stomach twists. I just drive, eyes fixed ahead, feeling something unseen pressing nearer, its presence thick as the fog outside. I pull into a gas station, legs unsteady, and down a Red Bull that tastes like regret. I need answers. That girl appeared at mile marker 67. I remember the rusted sign, bent like it had taken a hit. So I swing the rig around, head back, convincing myself I'm not losing it, just following a lead. The road's emptier than it should be. No headlights, no stars, just a heavy gray haze swallowing the horizon. I'm halfway there when the CB radio crackles. "Travis." A voice says, small, familiar. "Lily." My chest tightens. "Don't look back," she warns, and the line dies, leaving me with static and my own uneven breaths. I reach 67 and stop. The spot's unremarkable, gravel shoulder. Ditch, a crooked tree slanting like it's weary. No girl, no sign of life, but the air's off. Too cold, too dense, pressing against my lungs. I step out, boots grinding into the dirt, and scan the ditch. That's when I see it. A tiny shoe, white, scuffed, half sunk in the mud. Lily's. My throat closes. I reach for it, fingers shaking, but the ground shifts, soft, pulsing, like it's alive. I lurch back, heart slamming, and hear her voice again. "He sees you, Daddy." Not from the cab. From behind me, close enough to brush my neck. I spin, fists clenched, ready to fight whatever's there. Nothing, just fog, curling like tendrils around the tree. I snatch the shoe anyway, clutch it tight, and bolt back to the rig. The door bangs shut, lock snapping into place like that'll keep it out. My hands quake as I study the shoe. Her flower sticker's still there, faded but real. Too real. The cab's quiet now, but it's not empty. I feel it watching, waiting, and I can't tell if I'm more afraid of it or the man I've become. I'm back in the rig, doors locked, engine idling. The shoe's in my lap. I don't recall grabbing it, but here it is, small and worn, creased where her toes pressed. I'm crying now, rough, messy sobs, because I haven't touched anything of hers in years. Not since I purged it all to escape the memories. Then I catch it in the rear view, a shape in the bunk. Not Lily, not the girl. Something else. Tall, hunched, eyes glinting like wet glass in the gloom. I whip around, breath snagged in my throat. Nothing's there, just shadows pooling in the dark. I hit the gas, road blurring past, pushing the rig harder than I should. Every shadow stretches too far, clawing across the asphalt like it's reaching for me. My phone buzzes. Battery's been dead since noon, but the screen flares. A photo. Me, asleep in the cab, head slumped, snapped from above. My gut churns. I didn't take it. No one could have. I hurl the phone out the window, hear it smack the pavement, but the buzzing persists, drilling into my skull. It twists into words. "You can't outrun what's already here." I pound the dash, yelling at the empty air, at everything. The headlights flicker, snagging on something ahead. A figure, small, motionless. I slow, peering through the windshield. It's her, the girl, dress dripping, eyes black as pitch. She stands there, watching as I creep closer. I stop 10 feet away, hands unsteady on the wheel. She tilts her head, smiles faintly, and the lights cut out. Darkness swallows everything. When they snap back on, she's gone. But the cab feels colder, heavier, like something trailed in behind her silent steps. Next night, she's back. The girl, sitting there like she belongs, dress dripping onto the seat, leaving a dark stain that reeks of mud and rot. "Miss me?" she asks, voice slicing through the engine's hum. I don't reply, just grip the wheel and focus on the road, pretending she's a mirage. She leans closer, cold radiating off her like a winter gust, and whispers, "She misses you too." My knuckles bleach white. "Who?" I snap, voice breaking, louder than I intended. She tilts her head, eyes unblinking, endless. "The one you left behind." I slam the brakes, tires screeching, rig jolting to a halt. "Get out," I growl, jabbing a finger at the door. She doesn't budge, her smile stretching too wide, unnatural. Then she reaches out, fingers grazing my arm, icy, damp, chilling me to the marrow. The cab fills with the roar of rushing water, loud and relentless, like the river that night. I shove her hand off, shouting, I said get out. She vanishes, no sound, no trace. But the wet spot remains, soaking the seat. My arms numb where she touched me, and I can't stop trembling, can't catch a full breath. I sit there, engine rumbling, staring at the empty seat. The water sound fades, but something worse takes its place. Breathing, slow and deliberate, from the bunk. I don't look. I won't. Instead, I fumble for a cigarette, light it with shaky hands, and mutter, "You're not real." The breathing pauses. For a moment, I think I've beaten it. Then her voice whispers, right against my ear, "Aren't I?" I jerk around, heart in my throat. Nothing. Just the bunk, the thermos, the dark. But I know I'm not alone. Not anymore. I don't sleep. Can't. Every time I shut my eyes, I see her, Lily, the girl, that thing in the bunk. The side mirrors cracked now, a web of fractures spreading from that damn word. Closer. I stop at a diner, order coffee I don't drink, and stare at my reflection in the spoon. My face looks wrong, eyes hollow, skin ashen, like I'm fading. The waitress, a worn-out woman with a gravelly voice, asks if I'm okay. I laugh, too harsh, too loud, and say, "Define okay, darling." She shrugs, walks off. I don't blame her. I wouldn't tangle with me either. Back in the rig, I hear it breathing, slow, wet, right behind me. I freeze, coffee sloshing and the cup still in my hand. "What do you want?" I ask, voice quivering, spilling out before I can clamp it down. No answer, just the breathing deeper now, filling the cab like a living thing. Then a whisper, so near it grazes my neck. "You!" The lights flicker out, dashboard, dome, all of it, plunging me into black. I scramble for my flashlight, cursing under my breath, and when it flares on, the bunk's empty. But the breathing lingers, loud and close, and the mirrors fogged again. The word carved deeper, "Closer." I stumble outside, gulping air, flashlight beam darting wild. The lot's deserted, just my rig, a few pumps, the diner's neon humming faintly. I check the mirror once more. Clear now, just my pale, panicked face staring back. I laugh, a jagged sound, and climb back in. "You're losing it, Trav," I mutter, firing up the engine. But as I pull out, the radio bursts to life. Static, then Lily's voice, small and frightened. "Daddy, he's here." My hands slip, nearly clipping a sign. "He's here." "Who's he?" "I don't want to know, not yet." I find an old photo of Lily in the glove box. Creased, faded, her beaming with that shoe in her hand. I'd forgotten I kept it. Stashed it after the crash to stop the pain from tearing me open. The girl's voice rings in my head. "The one you left behind." The crash surges back. Rain pounding the windshield, slick roads, me barking at her to sit still while I messed with the dial. I swerved. We hit the river. She didn't make it out. I did. The guilt's been a blade in my gut ever since, carving deeper every mile. And now it's here, wearing her face, her voice. The girl appears again that night, closer than before, perched on the passenger seat like she's been waiting. Her eyes lock on mine, black and bottomless. "You didn't look back," she says, almost approvingly, her voice cutting the silence. "But he did." I don't ask who. My mouth's dry, words trapped. The air thickens, squeezing my chest, and I hear it. A low growl, inhuman, rumbling from the bunk. The girl smiles, teeth too sharp, too many, and says, "He's been waiting." "Waiting for what? Me? Lily?" My hands tremble as I clutch the wheel, staring ahead, pretending I don't hear the sound growing louder. I pull over, cut the engine, and sit there, photo in one hand, cigarette in the other. The growl fades, but the pressure doesn't lift. I glance at the girl. She's still there, watching, unblinking. "Why me?" Croak, voice raw. She leans in, cold breath brushing my cheek, and whispers, "Because you're his." The cab goes silent, but the photo slips from my fingers, landing face down. When I pick it up, Lily's smile is gone. Her eyes are black too, staring back, unyielding and cold. I try to run, dump the rig at a rest stop, Hitch a ride with some guy hauling cattle who won't stop yapping about the forecast. He doesn't see my hands shaking, the way I keep glancing at the mirrors. I think I've escaped, new truck, new road, no bunk for anything to hide in. Then I hear it, her giggle soft and piercing, from the back. I twist around, expecting her, but it's just crates of cows, their eyes gleaming in the shadows. The driver keeps talking, deaf to it. I mumble about needing air and bail at the next town, legs wobbly. I check into a motel, lock the door, yank the curtains shut. Safe, like hell. The TV flickers on. Static, then Lily's face warped, mouthing my name over and over. The lights buzz, dim, and the room reeks of river water, sharp and cold. I grab my keys, stumble outside, but the parking lot's barren. No cars, no souls, just fog rolling in thick as soup. That giggle follows, bouncing off the walls, and I run, boots slapping wet pavement. I don't know where to, just away. The fog engulfs everything. Motel, road, me, and I trip, sprawling on the ground, chest heaving. I look up and there's the rig. Mile marker 67 looms behind it, rusted and crooked. I didn't drive here, didn't walk here, but it's waiting, headlights dim, like it knew I'd return. The doors open, the girl standing beside it, dress dripping. "You can't leave," she says, voice flat. I scramble up, shouting, "Watch me!" But the fog presses closer, heavy and alive, and I hear it. Footsteps, slow, too big, drawing near. I'm trapped, and whatever's out there knows I've got nowhere left to go. I'm back in the rig. Don't ask how. It's parked at 67, engine off, headlights bleeding into the fog. The girl's beside me, silent, gazing out the window like she's tired of me. "Why me?" I ask, voice hoarse, barely holding together. She turns, eyes black now, no whites, just voids swallowing the light. "Because you looked," she says, calm as a grave. "Looked at what? The crash? Her?" She doesn't explain. The bunk creaks. Something heavy shifts, and I feel it stare, sharp as needles in my spine. I don't turn around, not yet. I step out, clutching the shoe, fog wrapping around me like damp hands. The girl follows, barefoot, dress dripping onto the gravel. "He's here," she says, and the ground quakes, a low rumble rattling my bones. I hear footsteps, slow, deliberate, too big for a man. My flashlight swings wild, catching nothing but mist. Then it stops, silence thick and choking. I turn back to the rig, and there's Lily, my Lily, standing by the door, soaked, smiling like she used to. "Daddy," she says, soft and warm. "Don't leave me again." I reach for her, tears streaming, choking on her name. She steps closer, and her smile fades. Her eyes turn black, matching the girl's. "He's not done," she whispers, voice echoing in my skull. The cab door slams shut, locking me out. The engine roars, headlights blaze, and it rolls forward, slow, mocking me. I chase it, screaming, "Lily!" But the fog devours it, leaving me on my knees, shoe in my hand, sobbing into the void. The air's heavy now, watching. I hear breathing, not mine, close, too close. I don't look back. Maybe it's Lily. Maybe it's the girl. Maybe it's him. All I know is it's not letting go. And deep down, I wonder if I deserve it. If whatever's out there is just me, staring back from the other side of that river, waiting to claim what's left. The echo that follows, I got a message from myself, but my phone was off, dead, screen dark, not even a flicker of life. I tossed it onto the passenger seat of my rig after a 12-hour haul, somewhere between nowhere and nowhere else, just me and the engine's low growl. Then it buzzed, not a normal buzz, more like a jolt, something waking up that shouldn't have. I glanced over, half expecting a scam call or some annoying ad, but the screen flared with my own name, Nick Grayson. Below it, one line read, "Turn around." I laughed, loud and sharp, right there in the cab, because what else do you do? I'm a trucker, 35, divorced, no kids, No skeletons rattling in my closet, or so I thought. I figured it was a glitch, some app messing with me. I tapped the screen. Nothing. Held the power button. Still nothing. Dead as a doornail. Yet that message glowed, daring me to look away. The road stretched ahead, a black ribbon slicing through pines under a sky sagging with clouds. No radio, no podcasts, just the rumble of tires and my own breathing. I kept driving, telling myself it was nothing. Then the phone buzzed again. Same name, same number, mine. You didn't turn around. Okay, screw this. I pulled over, gravel crunching under the wheels, and grabbed the damn thing. I yanked at it, old habits kicking in, but it's one of those sealed bastards, no battery to rip out. The screen stayed lit. I chucked it into the glove box and slammed it shut. Silence. Good. Back to the road. 10 minutes later, I heard it. A faint hum, like a voice trapped underwater, seeping from the glove box. I didn't open it. I cranked the heat instead, blasted the vents, anything to drown it out. My hands sweated on the wheel, and I caught myself muttering, "You're fine, Nick, you're fine." The hum faded. I exhaled, long and shaky. Then my own voice answered from the passenger seat. "No, you're not." I damn near veered off the road. My voice, low and gravelly, like I just smoked a pack, came from nowhere. I slammed the brakes, tires squealing, and the rig lurched to a stop on the shoulder. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. I stared at the empty seat, the glove box, the shadows pooling under the dash. Nothing. Just my phone, still glowing faintly through the crack in the glove box door. "All right," I said, loud, like I was challenging someone. "This some prank? Some jerk with a speaker?" I leaned over, yanked the glove box open, and snatched the phone. The screen was blank now, no messages, no light. Dead again. I tossed it back and waited, ears straining. Silence. Then, damn it all. My laugh echoed back at me. That same barking laugh I'd let out earlier, ricocheting around the cab like a warped recording. I froze. It wasn't from the phone. It came from behind me, where the sleeper bunk sits. I don't use it much, just a cot and a curtain. But I swear that curtain twitched. I'm not a brave guy. I haul freight, not heroics. But I had to know. I grabbed my flashlight, the heavy one I keep for breakdowns, and swung it toward the bunk. "Who's there?" My voice cracked. No answer. I ripped the curtain back. Empty. Just a rumpled blanket and a stale whiff of sweat. I let out a breath, feeling dumb. That's when it hit me. I turned back to the driver's seat, and there it was. A muddy footprint on the floor mat. My boots were clean. I checked them at the last stop. Size 12, same as mine, but the tread was off, worn, jagged, like something that had been trudging too long. My stomach sank. I hadn't picked up a hitchhiker. I hadn't stopped for anyone. The phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but my hand moved anyway. "Nick Grayson. You let me in. I don't scare easy. You can't. Driving these empty roads at night, dodging nothing but deer and the occasional drunk. But that footprint, that got me." I bolted out of the cab, flashlight in hand, and checked the rig top to bottom. No one in the wheel wells, no tracks in the dirt outside. Just that damn print inside, staring up like a mark left on purpose. Back in the cab, I locked the doors, useless maybe, but it felt like something. The phone sat there, dark now, but I wasn't touching it. I hit the gas and kept my eyes on the road, telling myself I'd find a diner, some coffee, some people, normal stuff to shake this off. Mist rolled in, thick and gray, swallowing the pines. My headlights barely pierced it. Then I caught it in the side mirror, a flicker. Something in the passenger seat. I whipped my head around. Nothing. Empty. But when I glanced back at the mirror, there it was again. A shape, hunched, head tilted like it was studying me. My shape, my jacket, my slouch. "Get lost?" I muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. The shape didn't budge. Just sat there, mirrored in the glass, like it was waiting for me to acknowledge it. I reached for the mirror, adjusted it. The shape vanished. I laughed, a nervous, ragged sound, but it was something. Then the radio crackled. I hadn't turned it on in hours. Static at first, then my voice cut through. Get lost. Clear as day, taunting me. I slammed the power button, kept going. Get lost. Get lost. Get lost. Louder each time, until it wasn't just words. It was a snarl, deep and wrong, shaking the cab. I pulled over again, trembling. The mist pressed against the windows like it wanted in. I grabbed the phone, ready to smash it, but the screen lit up before I could. No words this time, just a photo. Me asleep in the bunk, shot from above. I hadn't slept there in days. I don't know how long I stared at that photo. My face, slack, pale, eyes shut, mouth half open like I was mid-snore. The angle was impossible, right overhead like someone hovered there, snapping it. My hands shook as I swiped the screen. No other photos, no apps open, just that one image seared into the dark. I hurled the phone out the window, watched it bounce off the asphalt and vanish into the haze. Good riddance. I started the rig and peeled out, tires screaming. I needed a town, a signal, anything but this endless road. The GPS was dead, had been for hours, so I followed the signs. Renshaw, 15 miles. Fine, I could make that. 10 minutes later, the sign appeared again. Renshaw, 15 miles. Same chipped paint, same rusted pole. I slowed, frowning, kept driving. 5 minutes more. There it was again. Renshaw, 15 miles. My gut twisted. I wasn't looping. The odometer ticked up, the trees shifted, but that sign kept popping up like a bad dream. The radio hissed back to life. My voice again, slower, slurred. You're not going anywhere. I punched the dash. Cut off. Then the CB radio, dead for months, crackled. Nick, it said in my own tone. Why'd you leave me out there? I slammed the brakes. Leave who? I hadn't left anyone. I don't pick up stragglers, too many weirdos. But that voice sounded wounded, pissed, like I'd betrayed it. I leaned out the window, shouting into the haze. I don't know what you are, but you're not me. The mist replied. My shout drifted back, faint at first, then louder, sharper. You're not me. You're not me. It wasn't an echo. It was moving, circling the rig, closing in. I locked the windows, cranked the heat, anything to feel in control. The shouting stopped, but the air turned heavy, pressing down on me. I started driving again, faster now, ignoring the damn signs. The haze thickened, and the road narrowed barely enough for the rig. But I didn't care. I just wanted out. Then the static hit. Not from the radio, but everywhere. Crackling in my ears, buzzing under my skin. I clenched my jaw, trying to focus, when words sliced through. My words. She didn't deserve that, Nick. I froze. She, my ex, Tara. The divorce was ugly. Yelling, broken dishes, her storming out with half my life in a suitcase. I'd said things I shouldn't have, but nothing I'd take back. The static hissed again. You drove her away. Shut up, I snapped. The static chuckled. My chuckle, but twisted, like it was choking on itself. You shut her out, it said. Left her alone. Left me alone. I didn't leave anyone. I yelled, but the words rang hollow. Tara's face flashed up, red eyes, trembling hands. I told myself she was better off without me. Maybe I was wrong. The passenger window clouded up, not from my breath, but something outside. A handprint pressed against the glass, slow and deliberate. My size, my calluses, but the fingers bent wrong, too long. The static roared. You can't outrun yourself. I floored it. The handprint smeared, then faded. But the cab felt tighter, the air denser. I glanced at the bunk. The curtain was drawn again. I hadn't touched it. I needed people, real voices, not this crap. I spotted a gas station ahead. Flickering neon, a couple of pumps, a clerk's window. Salvation. I pulled in, killed the engine, and stumbled out, gulping cold air like it could scrub this nightmare off me. The clerk was an older guy, grizzled, chewing tobacco. I leaned on the counter, breathless. You hear anything weird out there? Voices? Static? He squinted, spat into a cup. Just the wind, buddy. You all right? No, I said, too honest. Something's following me. Sounds like me, but it's not. He raised an eyebrow, glanced at my rig. You alone out there? I nodded. He shrugged. Road plays tricks. Grab some coffee. I bought a cup, black, bitter, and sat on a bench outside. The haze thinned here, the world almost normal. I sipped, letting the heat steady me. Then I heard it. A low murmur, my voice, from the rig. You think he'll help? I dropped the cup. Coffee splashed my boots. The clerk didn't react, just kept wiping the counter. I marched back to the rig, yanked the door open. Empty, but the bunk curtain swayed, like something had brushed it. Nick, the clerk called. I turned. He was staring past me, frowning. Thought I saw someone in your cab. My blood ran cold. What did he look like? He scratched his chin. Like you, I guess. Tired guy in a jacket. I didn't sleep that night. I drove on, watching the mirrors, waiting for him to show up again. The road got rougher. Potholes, gravel, like it hadn't seen traffic in years. I didn't care. I kept moving, eyes burning, coffee long gone. The mist thickened into a wall, and my headlights bounced off it like they hit something solid. Then I saw him. Ahead, in the gloom, a figure. Tall, slouched, hands in pockets. My jacket, my walk. He didn't move, just stood there as I rolled closer. I slowed, heart hammering. His head tilted up, and I saw my face. My eyes, my stubble, but wrong. Too pale, too still, like a mask stretched over emptiness. I hit the brakes, he didn't flinch, just stared. I leaned out the window, yelling, "What do you want?" My voice broke the silence. He smiled, my smile, but slow, like he savored it. Then he turned and walked into the mist. I should have stayed put, waited him out, but I floored it, chasing him. The rig roared, tires chewing dirt, and for a second I lost him. Then he was back, closer, right in the headlights. I swerved, he didn't. He stood there, smiling as I barreled past. The mirror caught him again, walking behind me now, keeping pace. I pushed the rig harder, 80, 90 miles an hour, but he stayed there, a shadow in the glass, matching me step for step. The road ended, no warning, just a drop into blackness. I slammed the brakes, skidded, stopped inches from the edge. A ravine deep, jagged, swallowed the mist below. I panted, hands trembling. The mirror was empty. Then a tap on the window, my face pressed against the glass, smiling. I didn't scream, wanted to, but my throat seized up. That face, mine, but not, stared through the glass, eyes wide, unblinking. The mouth moved, silent at first. Then my voice seeped through, soft and close. You didn't mean it, did you? I shoved the door open, swinging my flashlight like a bat. Nothing. Just mist and the sound of my own breathing. I staggered back, checking every corner of the cab, empty. But the words lingered, heavy. Mean what? Tara? Something else? I climbed back in, locked everything. The engine growled to life, and I turned away from the ravine, picking a new road, any road. The static returned, softer now, almost a whisper. You thought it said. That night, you wished I was gone. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white. Tara's last fight flashed up. Her yelling, me slamming a door, thinking, I wish she'd just vanish. I never said it, never would. But the static knew. You meant it. It purred. And now I'm here. The cab went cold. My breath clouded, and the dashboard lights flickered. Words I'd never spoken poured out. My voice, my tone, but warped. I hate this life. I hate her. I hate me. Over and over, louder, until the windows shook. I shouted, stop! It did. Silence. Then the bunk curtain slid open. Slow, deliberate. I didn't look, couldn't, but I felt it. Something sitting there, heavy, watching. I drove blind, mist choking everything. The thing in the bunk didn't move, didn't speak, but I knew it was there. My skin prickled, like ants crawling under my shirt. I muttered to myself, you're losing it. Nick, pull over, sleep. But every time I slowed, the static hissed, keep going. Hours bled together. The same sign flickered past. Renshaw, 15 miles, again and again. I tried turning back, doubling around, didn't matter. The road looped and that weight in the bunk grew heavier. I finally snapped. What are you? I yelled, twisting to face it. The bunk was empty, curtain still, blanket flat. But the mirror showed me, slouched in the passenger seat, staring back. I slammed the brakes, lunged for the door, locked. The keys were gone. My voice laughed from the dash. You can't leave me. I tore the cab apart. Seats, glove box, bunk, no keys. The laughter swelled, bouncing off the walls. Then the headlights died. Darkness swallowed everything, and the air turned thick, like breathing mud. A hand grabbed my shoulder. Cold, rough, mine. I swung, hit nothing. The lights flared back on. I was alone, but the wheel was turning slowly on its own. The rig rolled forward, picking up speed. I fought it, yanked the wheel, it wouldn't budge. My voice whispered, "We're almost there." The rig barreled through the mist, faster than I'd ever pushed it. The wheel spun under my hands, locked tight, and the pedals were useless. I shouted, pounded the dash, but it didn't stop. The road dropped away, straight into that ravine I'd dodged before. I braced, waiting for the crash. It didn't come. The rig leveled out, humming along like nothing happened. The mist parted, and I saw headlights ahead. My headlights, my rig, coming straight at me. I blinked, it was gone. The mirror showed my face again, smiling, driving. The static roared one last time. "You wanted this?" It said. "You wished it all away." Tara's voice joined in, faint. "You left me." Then silence. The wheel went slack. I grabbed it, steered, and the rig obeyed. I laughed, wild, relieved, until I saw the bunk curtain twitch again. I pulled over, shaking. The cab was quiet, but the air felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. I stepped out, boots crunching gravel, and looked back. The rig sat there, dark, normal. My phone was on the seat. Didn't I throw it out? The screen glowed. Nick Grayson. "See you soon." I walked away, into the mist, leaving the rig behind. No plan, no keys, just my feet. The road stretched on, and I heard it. My own voice, calling from somewhere ahead. "Nick, wait up." Kept walking. What else could I do? Maybe it's me up there, maybe it's not. Maybe I'll find out, or maybe I'm still driving and this is just the road messing with me. You tell me,